Hello and welcome to That Is Nice. Today we have a special guest. He's a Gutenberg press technician. Would you like to tell him what you do?
No, I don't think that's necessary. I think the job description speaks for itself.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. But so today we're going to be talking about something near and dear to both of us, and that is Scientology.
Scientology.
Yes. So we actually both have a very personal experience with Scientology, and that was when we were in high school. What were we doing, Nolan?
Well, I believe we were at your aunt's house up in Buffalo, New York.
Okay.
And we were just kind of looking for something to do. We were running around cemeteries, just kind of looking at all the old gravestones. And then we thought to ourselves, like, we don't really have a set religion for ourselves and like what we believe in. And we kind of just searched the web for different kind of religious churches near us. And we found the Church of Scientology was within 2 miles of our location. So we both, saw it as an opportunity to, gain some more knowledge about something we had no idea about. I mean, we did do some pre-research and we didn't really find much. So lo and behold, we go to the Church of Scientology and we see that it is an open house today. So we did get.
So we go and we stumble across this Scientology church.
Yeah.
And we just walk in, and it looks kind of like an industrial type building from the outside.
Very new.
Yeah.
Very new.
Not like your typical Gothic church.
No.
So we go in, and this lady, she's an old lady. She has her, scraggly hair and everything. And she has that like 1,000-mile look in her eyes.
All in, she's wearing a nice suit too, like a very professional suit, along with everybody else working there as well.
Oh yeah, I think it was like a Hillary Clinton type suit.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So we go there, we ask her about it, and she says that we can get a tour of the church. They give tours. So we go and we fill out our information, our personal information, our phone number, our address, our social security number, our bank routing number. Not that. It might as well. It could have. Probably already had it. But so we go, and the first thing they do is they sit us down and we watch all these videos, these intro videos.
Yeah, it took, it was like 30 minutes of video. And she said like, hey guys, you need to sit down and watch these before you can continue on the tour.
Yeah.
And, we thought it was like maybe like a 5-minute intro to Scientology. So we were like, hell with it. Why not? So we get in front of this giant screen. It's the both of us. And we're just sitting there all alone. I mean, there's a couple of different people in like the corner of the building, and we really didn't know what they were doing there, but we just sit in front of this giant screen. I mean, it's massive, and she plays this video, and it's like 15 minutes long. So, we sit through it politely, and we're like, okay, yeah. And
well, I don't know how polite was it, because I remember the whole time we were watching it, we were trying not to laugh.
I believe that was like the second or third video she tried making us watch.
That's true, yeah.
I think the first one was we're just kind of gauge our environment.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I mean, once they got to, they talked about LRH. Who's LRH?
Mr. L. Ron Hubbard.
L. Ron Hubbard. They talked about him and his life, and he's a science fiction writer and all that. And then once they got to the belief system, they're talking about Xenu and aliens and everything.
They never really stated Xenu.
But they were talking about like freezing planets over in the video.
Right.
And that's when you're a little kid and you're in class and your friend tells a joke and you don't want the teacher to hear you laughing and you're holding it in. That's what we did, except we were afraid for our lives. So.
Yes. So I mean, as the story goes on, we're going in front of these big video screens again, and we finish a video, then she puts us on to the next video. And at that point, I think after the third video, we got halfway through, and we asked her like, "Can we just like see the building? Can we just not watch any videos?" And it took a little bit of pushing her to kind of get us through. I think he was very upset, but
yeah, it was a little upsetting. I mean, the first thing she takes us to though is she takes us to it's like a worship room, and it looks like a mix between a lecture hall
and a library type thing.
Yeah, like a lecture hall. It's a hybrid of like a lecture hall, a library, and like a church room, like a Christian church, like worship area. And it looks pretty nice. And we're thinking there, where do they get all this money? Because this building's massive.
Yes.
The building's big, and it has like numerous floors, and it's pretty nice. So we're shocked about that. And then the favorite part is we go and she shows us the e-meter.
Ooh.
Which what is the e-meter?
Well, the e-meter is basically you get 2 tin cans. I mean, it's obviously it's more complex than this, but it's basically you get 2 tin cans, you put your hands on them, and then the person behind the e-meter reads this little tiny dial thing that goes back and forth. And basically, the person who's holding the little dial thing is considered the auditor. And she was just kind of doing a crash course with us and like how it works and, you know, simple things about it. And Jake decides to ask me, you know, some random question like, have you ever lied to me? And of course the meter is like, bing, bing. And, you know, we thought it was like a lie detector test. And it wasn't.
It essentially is though, because I guess when you ask questions, the entire premise of the e-meter is they do something called auditing.
Right.
And auditing is where they just basically sit there. You hold these 2 cans hooked up to a machine, and they ask you questions. And if the needle goes really far, that means
that means that you have like a thought about whatever you just said. But obviously, I mean it's
stressing.
If somebody says anything, obviously you're gonna have a thought. But I mean.
Or Satan. So this was the scariest moment because I didn't think it was a big deal. So when it's my turn to hold it, because Nolan won first, and then it's my turn to hold it, and the lady who's touring us around, the one in the nice Hillary Clinton suit, she hands me these 2 tin cans. I hold it, and then as a joke, I went like I was getting electrocuted. And there was a few people, like members of the church around. And you can ask Nolan about the death glares.
Oh my God.
That we would see.
I saw a 10-year-old child just stare at it. Like, he was like, what are you guys doing? Like, it was unbelievable. It was like something I've never seen before. I really feared for my life at that point.
It wasn't, no one laughed.
No.
And the lady touring us looked like she was worried for us. She would look concerned for us. But you know, moving on, she continued the tour, and we went to, there was like this big room, and there was a desk with a chair on this side and then a chair on the other side. And there was this little kid. He had the e-meter and he was getting audited. Yeah, and it was a little sad. He couldn't have been more than like 8 years old.
No, and it was crazy because like when we were walking through those halls, like all I saw, I mean, this was during a school day for these children, and like they were there at fucking, I mean, what time was it? Like 11? Like
probably, yeah.
These kids weren't even in school. They were being lectured on whatever they were even learning that day. Like it was just mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, it's absolute brainwash. I mean, and we can say that because we tried it out.
Right.
We tried it out. And the reason I'm saying we're saying it's scary is because when we filled out that form, when we first got that information, you know, I put my actual information, and I was receiving letters for like at least 2 or 3 years after I went there, like handwritten letters.
Handwritten.
Nolan didn't even put his actual address. He put like a fake address.
I put my first and my last name, and I put a completely fake address, and like something that wasn't even like remotely close to my location. And I get a call from Jake one night, and he's saying that like, hey man, I got this mail and a letter from Scientology. Isn't that like fucking weird? Because, you know, it's a handwritten saying like, I hope we see you again, this kind of stuff. I was like, man, that's weird. So a year later, after that fact, like a year later, we've been gone from the church for a whole year. I get letter in the mail saying the exact same thing, handwritten, and it's insane how they found us. Like,
they found him.
I mean, yeah,
They found him. He didn't put a real address, and they found where he lived.
They know where my parents live now, and like I came home from school one day, and like my stepmom was like, "Hey, you got a letter in the mail," and I was like, "Oh, that's weird." And then lo and behold, there it is. I was just, at that point, I think we spent the night together, and we slept in the same bed with knives and like flashlights right by our heads.
Yeah, we sure did. Because we didn't know. Because as soon as we left, we had a very weird feeling about it.
Yeah. We actually, the funny thing is, we actually went to a Catholic church after that, hoping that we would get cleansed from the whole fear and everything.
Yeah, but I don't know if it worked. I don't know if they might not be happy about this podcast.
Yeah, especially after this, we're probably going to receive some letters.
Yeah,
I'm sure they'll find me here, 3,000 miles away.
I'm sure that's probably, you gave them more info than they need. Like 3,000 miles. Okay, he's here. But the reason we're not doing it in the original studio is because I don't want. I'm in an undisclosed location, and so is Nolan, because we don't want any issues with that. But I think it's important to know some of the terminology to really understand the craziness of it. So there's something. The main thing is to get to like OT 8, which I believe is the highest one, and that is your operating thetan.
And I believe, actually, if I'm not mistaken, I believe they have changed, like they change it. Once a certain number of people become OTA, I believe they raise it to OT9. So that way people, will start producing more money into it. But I mean, that can be for later discussion. Because I mean, we got a lot to cover.
We got a lot to cover, yeah.
We do have a lot to cover.
I don't understand really the concept of a thetan. Can you explain the thetan? I don't get that. It makes no sense.
Yes. I mean, from my understanding is that it is it's a being that once was up to 72 million years ago. I mean, that's why they say that there's so many thetans. Like they'll say, like, I know once you reach like OT5, you get this piece of paper saying that your body and every body part is considered like it was once another human being, basically. Not even a human being, but a being. So like your thumb was a person, your elbows were people. And basically you're just composed of all these different types of beings, which, a lot of the negative beings are considered thetans, yes.
Wow. Okay. Well, I think I remember from the video, if I remember properly, where they came from.
Yes.
But I'm glad you explained what they are. And I guess, so you mind if I tell a story?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
There is, like Nolan said, 70 some million years ago, there was a supreme overlord, galactic overlord, and his name was Xenu, 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 who was essentially the god of the religion. He, to remain in power, froze over everybody, froze over an entire planet, and he sent them to Tikiak.
And not only sent them, but he sent them on like a 1945 jet airliner. Like,
oh yeah,
out of all places, like that's how they traveled through space.
Well, I guess 70 some million years ago, the planet that they were originally on, Xenu and the people he froze, was like a 1950s America. It was like a 1950s America, and they obviously had planetary travel, but whatever. But so he sends them to Tikiak, and Tikiak, for those of you who don't know, is Earth.
Yeah. Mind blown.
It's Earth. He sends them all to Earth, and I guess he sent hydrogen bombs and blew them all up.
Right. So he sent them into a volcano. He landed the ship in a volcano, then dropped the hydrogen bombs. Yes.
So that makes sense.
Right. And then the spirits filled the whole air and the whole world with thetans. Like those were the thetans in the world.
All the people that died.
Right.
In the volcano, those are the thetans. And so that makes sense. That's totally logical. And I'm surprised more people don't follow the religion.
Honestly.
But you know, what do you know what clear is, like becoming clear?
So becoming clear is basically when, so you have to get audited for a certain number of period, like a lot of times. And let's just say that auditing costs 15 grand a piece, right? It's a certain number. I'm not exactly sure, but
Right.
once you get audited and these people with the e-meters, they test you on different questions and stuff. They say like, once you have released all of your thetans from your body by like getting rid of your fear, getting rid of like everything that makes you a human being, like inside, then that's when you become clear.
Yeah.
Right.
That's when you're clear. And so you have no longer like a reactive mind, and
Right.
you would just you tackle all the hidden sources of your irrational behavior, and that actually you attack all the hidden sources of your irrational behavior, unreasonable fears, upsets, and insecurities. That's from the Scientology.org website. Actually, I got that from there. So it's
right. Yeah, it's totally legit, and it originally came from the book Dianetics. And I think once we learn the 5 W's, I think then we can get more into Dianetics, like the who, what, the when, the where, and the why. And I think that would be a good starting point. But I mean, you want to just talk about the 5 W's real quick?
the 5 W's. Let's talk about the 5 W's. Infamous. All right. So, what is it?
So we know who created it, right?
Yep.
That's L. Ron Hubbard. You know, he's an adventurer. He's a mariner. He's a pilot. You know, he's one of the youngest Eagle Scouts out there. And the biggest part about L. Ron Hubbard is he's an entrepreneur. He's a businessman.
Absolutely.
Right? And, you know, in his time, he was a writer for science fiction books, you know, writing about, you know, sexual space fantasies with
actually the most published author.
Right.
Which is mind blowing.
Well, I mean, considering the circumstances, yes. But then you can move into the what. What is Scientology? Where did it derive from? That type of thing. And I think the very first thing you need to know about the what is you need to know that Scientology was not intentional by any means. Scientology was just kind of stumbled upon by a group of followers that, you know, so like say your favorite professor writes a book about some sort of new science he thought he created, right?
Right.
Then you get all these students and they're all collaborating with each other and saying, oh, this makes sense, this makes sense. And then it's, you know, it turns into a religion, right? A religion. But it all started from the book Dianetics. And I believe like in 1950. And I mean, Dianetics, I haven't personally read it. Have you?
Only every other night. Great piece of literature.
But it's like, it's regarding like the metaphysical relationship between the mind and body. And that's where you get the thetans, the e-meter, that type of thing. But when they talk about Dianetics and they talk about going clear is like the final destination of Dianetics, supposedly. Like that's what it was made for. And, you know, that's when you get rid of all your sanity, your happiness, your awareness, all that type of thing. That's when you finally get clear, is from Dianetics.
Okay.
And then you would think, like, when did it happen? Early 1950s, obviously. And if you talk about what was happening in the world in the 1950s, you'd think about prospering people. The wages increased dramatically in the 1950s. So a lot of people had more money. I believe we were talking about this earlier. So there's a little bit more wealth going on, and you know, obviously the hydrogen bomb was created in 1952, and it's funny because you know the whole hydrogen bomb situation when the Thetans got here. So I don't know why L. Ron Hubbard didn't just make the hydrogen bomb himself. So that was interesting to me. And the where would be in Elizabeth, New Jersey of all places, right? You know, they have the saltwater taffy, the bubble wrap, and TV dinners along with Scientology. So I think New Jersey, congrats. I'm really happy for you guys.
Yeah, that's quite an accomplishment.
It's a very big accomplishment. I mean, what, Scientology is like the only religion that was created in the 19th century, I think it was, 20th century. That's
Probably.
what they claim. That's what they claim.
I mean, I don't think of any other, but I mean, I'll segue in this later. But I mean, I think of Scientology like a cult. So lots of cults. I mean, the Manson family was a pretty cool. Not really, but you know. But I'll get to that later. So what are the other W's?
I think it's a Y. Why? I think that was it. And why was it created? Again, it wasn't intentional. It was simply like an offshoot of Dianetics. And basically, around that time, L. Ron Hubbard has a famous quote saying, you don't get rich writing science fiction. If you want to get rich, you start a religion. And I mean, honestly, from that point forward, I think people in Scientology should realize, like, hey, maybe this is a sham. I mean, I don't know. That's just me.
But they don't really realize. I mean, Catholicism has been known as a scam, but people just don't want to believe it. It's their faith.
Right. I mean, but then go ahead.
Yeah. Plus, do you mind if I just segue into the 3 folders that they keep?
You're good.
Speaking of scams, so a lot of the reason why people don't leave is because there are 3 types of folders, actual like manila folders that they keep on you. One of them, the first one would be your PC folder, and that's your pre-clear folder. And these would be all your confessions, all of your audits and everything when you're doing the e-meter. So that's the first one. And they can sometimes just be like as high as like 150 manila folders that they keep getting full. So, and then next there's your ethics folder. Ethics folder is like your knowledge reports and disciplinary action that should be taken on you or that was. And the third one, and the most interesting, that makes it seem more of like a business, is the OSA folder. And that is the Office of Special Affairs folder. What this is when you're doing your confessions, and if you start talking about, oh yeah, my uncle, he's the senator of Texas, you know, or my uncle, he's a very prominent judge, or this or that, then they keep that information, and they will send it to a base in New York, and they will try to exploit that and use it, because if you have a connection with someone who's a senator and they need some sort of approval for something, they'll go to you. Or if you're a threat, they'll also record your threat level. But a lot of the reason why people don't leave is the same reason why Tom Cruise isn't leaving, because he's trying to. You hear about this?
I have not heard about this yet.
So maybe like 2 or 3 months ago, he was talking about leaving because his wife, Katie Holmes, was in the church with him years ago. They divorced and left, and she left the church, and they labeled her as a suppressor.
Right.
A suppressor is somebody who's bad for you, and they tell you to like eliminate them from your life and have nothing to do with them.
Getting banished, basically.
Exactly. So they will like break real relationships, the church. And he doesn't want to leave because I guess the PC folder, which is all of your confessions,
right,
you say everything. So they will use that to blackmail you. And they'll also like file lawsuits and everything against you. That's why it's so difficult to leave.
Sure. And that's a very good point. I mean, that just shows the fear in people. And I mean, and usually you only see the real fear in people when they're either just starting or they've been in the church long enough to understand what's going on.
Oh yeah.
But
or just getting tours. You get fear when you're getting tours. Fuck.
I agree. So then you start to talk about, you know, the Dianetics and how that came to be, right? And it started as the Dianetics Foundation with L. Ron Hubbard. He, he created Dianetics, and he was actually prescribing like medicine to his followers, and after the audits, right? And I guess later on, the FDA got rid of, I mean, they didn't really get rid of his license because he never had one. They explained to him that he needs a medical license to give out prescription meds. So after that, he goes bankrupt. And, this man, businessman, right? Any businessman will tell you, like, once you go bankrupt, like, that's not it. That's just the beginning of a new thing. And that's really when Scientology started to take the reins, I guess.
Wow.
And shortly after all that in Scientology, he had his followers go on a little malicious trot, as you will, during Operation Snow White, of all things. And that's where there was thousands of government buildings just being raided and ransacked for all the medicine they can from these Scientologists.
Jesus.
And they all got them together and gave them back to L. Ron Hubbard's medical teams, and they kept the process up.
So they gave this medicine to the church followers?
So like the church followers go into these buildings, they ransack the shit out of everything, take all the medicine, give them back to the Church of Scientology, and that's when they started, prescripting these drugs to other followers, basically.
What was the reason? Was that to make them more, like, less subordinate? That
was just to help them more to reach that clear level. You need to perform a certain amount of duties to, be like a golden apple, if you will, in the eye of the church.
Okay.
So
what I don't understand, like, what kind of drugs were they were giving?
They were doing, anything from antidepressants to, any, like, maybe a stuff for autism, just absolutely anything and everything that you could imagine would be in your local pharmacy. They were just ransacking. And, that led to the FBI involved, obviously. And, there's so many convictions towards these Scientologists that are like, it's unheard of. Like, L. Ron Hubbard's wife was convicted by the FBI. Like, that's like, how does that sneak under the table when you're thinking, oh, maybe I should join Scientology? Like, I don't know.
She had Satan's, bro. She got rid of them.
Exactly.
Satan's.
That brings up the whole ethics situation with Scientology. And, like, they believe that, you can't be a criminal and be in Scientology because, you can, but then they would have to purify you, or if you're a drug addict. I don't know if you've heard of the way they actually get rid of being a drug addict.
No.
And that basically, if you're you're a struggling heroin addict and you're being a Scientologist, then what they do is they fill you up on all the vitamins you can possibly need. Mm-hmm. And then they sit you in a sauna for like hours at a time. And then they keep repeating the process until, I guess, maybe you're not a drug addict.
Damn.
Yeah.
So that's revolutionary.
It is revolutionary in some people's eyes, I guess.
Here's a conspiracy. CVS is Scientology. CVS. Think about it. I'll make it work.
All right. Let me hear it.
We'll find him.
So Jake, I got to ask one question, and that is, what do you think draws people into this type of religion?
It could be numerous things. It could be like they're new in town. It could be they just want some sort of sense of community, various things.
Acceptance,
exactly.
That type of thing. Right? I find a very common pattern with a lot of people that have done interviews about Scientology, and a lot of it derives from the fact that it is sort of like there's a new person in town, but a lot of it has to do with like traumatic events that happen. Like family members die, and I feel like everyone does it once in their life at least. Like if something happens in your life where you're really down and you try to look for something to fill that void, like a religion.
Okay.
That's a big reason why people would go to Scientology, and people would go to Christianity. It's all the same premise.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. That's super true. So, I mean, on that aspect, it is a religion.
Right.
They go looking for some sense of belonging.
Some sort of guidance. I mean, that's what it does. I mean, Scientology does have a set standard of like rules and things of what you want or what you should do. And I mean, I guess that's like every other religion as well.
Yeah. And I think people just like order and structure.
Right.
You know, they like to, you know, they can't really go and blaze their own path. So they like it to be made for them.
Right. And you know, it's weird because Scientology in some aspect is a lot more simple than a regular religion. If you think about it in a different perspective, like you know, they give you all these sort of tools. I hear a lot of Scientologists talk about their toolbox of knowledge that they get from Scientology. A quote from a lady that I listened to the other day. She said, "You learn about it, read it, and then you do it. It's as simple as that. They teach you simple skills like communication, and honestly, like that should basically be in everyone's mind, like at all. I mean, it's just not a Scientology thing. That's just like a normal human being thing. I think that is one of the big factors is that it's simple to understand. It's a phenomenon, you know.
It really is. It's a good word for it. And it's strange though, because for humans liking freedom so much, they go out and they seek these things that confine what they can and can't do.
It's crazy.
They go and look for ways to be restricted. So it's almost like people just have an inherent urge to be led.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what Scientology takes advantage of, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess so, with all the brainwashing.
Have you heard of the Sea Org?
I haven't. I have not.
The Sea Org actually, like they have their own military group. It's sort of like a militia. Yeah. So members of the church join Sea Org once they get to a certain OT
level.
Yeah. And it's required. Like you have to, you don't have a choice. They sign a contract. This is dead serious. They sign a contract, and in the contract, it says that they vow to serve for 1 billion years. Like quotes, 1 billion years. They say 1 billion. So, you know, you're in it for life.
What happens when your Sea Org contract expires?
You'll be long gone. You'll probably be on with Xenu somewhere.
I mean, and that's the weird thing is like they say that, you know, you had these past lives and stuff, like, and they say that, you know, this was 1 trillion years ago, like when Scientology really first started. So like, what if you were to say like, hey man, I've been in Scientology for 1 trillion years and my my contract's up. That's
all expired.
Yeah, I mean,
they're still Scientologists. Like if you go and you're getting pre-cleared, you're still a Scientologist. It's just you have to serve in Sea Org for 1 billion years. Like you know how I think it's South Korea, they make you do a mandatory amount of time in the military.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like that, but it's not for like 2 to 4 years. It's for 1 billion. So it's like that. And I guess what they do is they raise funds as well and stuff too, you know.
Right.
Like that girl that we got the tour from was probably in Sea Org because she's working for the church.
She probably was. She could have been. I saw her strapped.
But dude, they're smart. They get all the benefits of being a religion without, you know, really being a religion, I guess, because they don't have to pay tax like a church would, you know.
They're beating all the better businesses out there.
Like, why doesn't Google go start a religion or something? You know, Google or like Tesla, they should just start a religion and say, oh yeah, it's the Tesla faith. They believe in supreme overlord lithium ion battery. You know, paid tax.
If only it was that easy. But yeah, that's funny that you said that the militia. It's like they have these trained operatives to go out there and like do the dirty work for them. It's crazy. I don't know if you've known about some of the very coincidental deaths of some members of Scientologists.
I can't really name any.
Well, there's one very important person, but we'll get to that after we pay homage to Sean Lonsdale. He moved into Clearwater, Florida if you don't know, Clearwater, Florida has a very big church there. It's one of the largest ones, but LA has the biggest one. But he moved down to Clearwater and he started videotaping the Church of Scientology from the outside gate walls. And like, you know, I'm pretty sure he had his own YouTube channel called Cult Watch.
Wow.
Who knows that is? But yeah, he started getting some stick in the community because there's so many Scientologists there. They're actually like posting pictures, like they hire PIs to do all these investigations for them. And they get that information out of them. If they want that information, they will get it. And they totally bashed him all over the place. They were putting flyers up on him saying that he was a pedophile. There's just some outlandish things, but it actually hurt his reputation in the community.
The church was putting out false information about him?
Yes. And that's what led to his suicide. And basically, it was, a couple months later after these incidents with the church, his neighbors called the police saying that there was a weird smell coming out of his house. And, we all know it. Like, he was choked to death by a garden hose. He wasn't hung by a garden hose. He was literally, like, he had a garden hose around his neck, and it was, like, pulled. But the police...
They're dangerous.
They called him. Exactly. And that's like... I thought about it too, like, how do they get away? This is a religion that derives from being like pure and being so ethical. And how do they get away with these deaths, like these outright murders? And I realized that there was actually, so like, how you have what is it called for the militia?
Oh, the Sea Org.
The Sea Org. So They have the Sea Org. They also have this thing called a Kakan. Okay. And basically, once you're in Scientology and you hit a certain OT level, you can become a Kakan. It's an appointed thing. And one famous person you may know is John Travolta. He is a Kakan.
Yeah.
And what a Kakan basically means is that you will be forgiven up to 10 death penalty sentences from the church. So you can commit 10 major crimes. I'm not talking about stealing here and there. Like, you can do that. 10 major crimes. And The church will totally just blow it off. They'll write a little report on it, but they will just sweep it under the rug. And I think that's a big way on how they get away with certain things like this. Another really important death is actually L. Ron Hubbard's son, Quentin.
Yeah.
He had, I think it was 5 sons, if I'm not mistaken, but Quentin was the second oldest. And somehow, like, he was raised in the church, but he never really believed any of that stuff when he was growing up. But he just kind of went through the motions and, like, yeah, Dad, I'm making you proud. I'm doing this thing. And he became a super high appointed member of the church. Uh-huh. And I mean, obviously, because it's L. Ron Hubbard's son, right? And he finally, at one point, I think it was during OT3, he read this piece of paper. So like, they bring you into a room to read a piece of paper once you reach that level. And like, he started putting the pieces together early on, but once he read this piece of paper, he was just like, I'm done. But that piece of paper basically said that once you've reached this level, you are able to have telepathic like powers. Like, you're supposed to be able to move objects from across the room. And he just thought, like, how crazy is this? Obviously this isn't real, but he never said that until later on. He made like a press conference type thing. And he said that my father's work does not work. And he just fakes the results. Simple as that. He gets a whole bunch of stick from the church. He's confined to that base for, I think it was like almost 12 months. Confined for almost 12 months, just stuck in a room. And After that, he finally plans his escape, gets out, leaves a note saying that he's going to go to Area 51 and fly spaceships. And, a couple months later, after they send the operatives out to go retrieve him, The police find him in Las Vegas in a car. And I guess the exhaust was basically backwards. So instead of the car exhaust going out of the car, it was going straight into the car.
Wow.
And he was in a coma and then pronounced dead. Like, and the only thing his dad had to say was like, "Oh, he's been a pain in my ass for the last time," and that's all he said. Like, they're willing to kill their own son for this. I have no words.
So are you saying we should join?
Yes.
Because that was a good sales pitch.
It's very persuading, and I am a member of the Church of Scientology. I'm an OT5, and if you don't delete this video, you will be killed.
Oh my God, no. Just get sniped out. But yeah, wow, that's really tempting. That makes me want to change my mind. So, I mean, I guess the whole murder thing in the church, I guess they have something in the book called, what was it? Dianetics. And it's called R235.
Oh, like R2D2.
Like R2D2.
Okay.
But without the D and R. There's an R. R235. And what it is, it's hilarious. It's when when you help somebody, remove their thetans immediately from their body. Do you know how they do that?
They bullshit it.
No. They kill them.
Oh.
Yeah, so what they were doing, they probably classified as R235, which is part of Dianetics. Make that the person's stains won't go away, and you're helping them. The mercy kill. R235.
Put them out of their suffering.
Yeah. You know how like Snoop Dogg's like, oh yeah, 187 on a motherfucking cop. R235 on a motherfucking Thetan.
I wonder if there's any Scientologist rappers out there. It'll be interesting to hear.
That would be pretty great. I think Young Thug might be. He sounds like he's like woke in that aspect.
Him and Tadashi 6ix9ine.
Hell, dude, he's the bomb. The bomb.
So after talking about all of this, just a little background of the Scientology world. Now I think comes the age-old question: is Scientology a religion or is it a cult?
That's a good question, but I think first you have to really distinguish what is the difference, because religions seem very cult-like.
Right. No, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, you can simply just get the definition of cult and religion, and you can kind of see that they're almost, if not exact, but
they just copy and pasted the definitions. They're
pretty close. Like, a cult is a system of religious veneration and devotion directed towards a particular figure or object. Simple as that. But a religion is the belief in and worship of a superhuman controlling power, especially a personal god or gods. Like, exact, that's pretty damn close.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. Well, I guess they are the same thing then, because if you look at like Christianity, they worship a person, they worship God, Jesus.
Right.
He's like their supreme being. And then Scientology, they worship L. Ron Hubbard and Xenu.
They're Xenu, yeah.
But then a cult, they worship somebody too.
Right.
So maybe the difference is a cult will worship a living person.
Okay, yeah, I like that answer. Or maybe it's more a religion is a more organized cult.
I guess it's old.
Yeah. I mean,
as soon as it reaches after 25 years, it becomes a religion because it's vintage. But if it just starts now, it's a cult, I guess.
Right. I don't know.
I'm gonna go on my instinct, and I'm gonna label this one as a cult.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, Jake. As much as I hear Scientology is a real religion, the government sees it as a religion, but I think I'm gonna debunk this one and say it's definitely a cult.
Yeah, well, we're dead, but the thing is, okay, so let's look at it. A cult, they have like a group mentality.
Right, like a mob mentality.
A mob mentality, exactly. And one of the primary things that they do is they disencourage critical thinking.
Okay.
So they don't want you to try to critique what's going on. They don't want you to try to critique the leader, or critique the readings and the principles. And also what they will do, I think the difference, maybe one thing that's different from a cult is they will use like anger and intimidation tactics to abide.
Instead of like a Christian, like an old Christian lady saying like, "Oh, here, take this handout. Jesus loves you."
Yes.
I think they're a little bit more forceful. I think that's a good word. They're a little bit more
forceful, and dog. Nolan has attack dog being sent to him for all the things he said. But, so I guess we can first break it down by the leader. And I think a common thread among all cults like Scientology is the leader. And L. Ron Hubbard's son is even on record saying, his dad is like a pathological liar.
And a drug addict.
And he's like mentally ill.
Right.
So I think he fits the criteria for that.
And one more note on being a drug addict. I thought it was weird because Scientology, they do a lot of outreach programs with children on drugs and like to stay away from them and that sort of thing. And the biggest inspiration to L. Ron Hubbard after he wrote Dianetics is he had a minor tooth surgery with his medical team at Scientology, and he tripped out on acid, and he wrote a book on his experiences and his just real life near death experiences. And now all these people are like, they believe that even more, but it's like he obviously was just tripping balls. And it's funny because when L. Ron Hubbard actually died, they found what was it? It wasn't an antidepressant, but they found like sort of drugs in his system. Like they're so against it, but yet they can let it slide because it's a high-ranking official in the Scientology church. They're hypocrites, they're cheats, and that's basically all you need to know about Scientology at this point. But sorry, go on with the cults.
Well, I mean, I guess since you talked about L. Ron Hubbard and drugs, let's look at the connection between what he did. I think a lot of the reason why he did that whole prescription scandal that you mentioned is
Operation Snow White.
Operation Snow White. If you give the followers, if you're giving them like psychoactive drugs, it'll disconnect them, it'll make them care less, so they're probably easier to lead.
Right.
They don't care as much.
Brainwashed.
Exactly. And now let's look at this. Like Marilyn Manson would give his followers like LSD.
Kool-Aid.
No, that was Jim Jones.
Oh, Jim Jones. Sorry.
But that Kool-Aid is a little bit different because that pulled an R235 on them all. They took an L. They took a big L.
Yeah, it was a loss of a life.
But
and 32 cents.
So one thing is they all have like a charismatic leader as well.
Right.
L. Ron Hubbard I'm sure he was a charismatic guy to go start a religion. He was like crazy. He wrote all these science fiction books, and he was in, I think it was the Navy.
Yeah, you have to be in the, like, if you're a naval officer and an officer in general in the military, you have to be charismatic. You have to be smart. You have to.
He actually got booted though, and he's like unable to return or something. I don't know what it's called exactly, but he got kicked, like dishonorably discharged, so he can't come back and all these things.
Right.
And
probably a drug addiction.
It seems likely. And it's just the grandiose sense of self that they all have.
You see it in Sigma Pi. I think it was Sigma Pi. There was a cult joined.
Oh, Beta Theta Pi.
Beta Theta Pi, that's what it was.
Oh my God, yeah, I remember that.
And these two high school students decided, this is our way to make money. And I think they took from Scientology what they knew and they put that into practice, and they ended up making quite a few bucks off of some of their followers.
Did they start that after they went to Scientology? Maybe that inspired them.
I think it might have. I don't think it's on record, but I'm pretty sure that's what indeed inspired them. They had quite a few followers as well.
Very devout ones too.
Yeah, and their marketing scheme, honestly, was par none. For sure.
They would cover it up with things like
this is not a cult. They would keep on saying this is a club.
Funny because if you have to say that, it usually is.
Right.
Like if it looks so much like a cult that people think it is, and you gotta go, it's not.
Right, exactly. And then and honestly, I think these simple-minded high school students, they're not super educated.
Young, malleable minds.
Exactly. And they fell for it like bees in the trap, baby.
Is it you? Was that you?
I wish.
All right. Well, I guess that's gonna be all. We're not gonna get into much further details. Let us know what you think if Scientology is a cult or a religion, and we don't mean to bash on it or anything. We're just looking at it as objectively as possible.
Right.
Objectively as humanly possible.
No, and I appreciate for being on the show. I've watched all 3 of your videos the last 2 days, and it's I'm definitely a big fan of yours. I can't wait to be on again. I'm sure I hope I will be. But
if you don't get R235, you're gonna have Nolan on once again.
All right, thank you, Jake.
All right, but 1 second, I gotta ask you though.
Oh yeah, what's that? Was
it nice?
That is nice.
But was it nice?
Yes, that is nice.
Fucking idiot. But just really quick, Nolan wants to do like a quick plug for his painting right back there. He made that.
So if you look behind me to my left shoulder, you will see a perfect description of what the 1945 airliner would look like in today's time. That was sent over to Topeka or whatever the fuck they call Earth. And so if you want to check that out, head over to blenderseyewear.com and let me know what you think.
All right. It's certainly a beautiful painting. It'll make all your friends envious. So Nolan, thank you for coming on. It was good. And remember to follow us on Instagram at ThatIsNicePodcast. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and have a good night.